Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. APW Sports signing in, and welcome to the Week 15 Weekly NFL Power Rankings. It is crazy to think we only have 4 weeks of the NFL season left. This has been a season that has gone by fast. It's been a season when we don't have so much of a clear cut, and I love it that way. I've been saying that for weeks. So let's get into these Power Rankings nonetheless. Without further ado, let's dive into it. This is my list from last week. This is what we have. Now let's see what we get this week. First, we're going to start with the teams with the bye weeks. We're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals, who are at a D, and we're going to start with the Washington Commanders, who are at a D. Both teams have bye weeks. As you guys always know, I always say, gameplay football, you can't move. So both of those teams are in D tier. Now, I'm going to do things a little bit different this week. I'm going to do game-by-game rankings. As in, I'm not going to do a team order. I'm going to do it by in-game rankings. First, Patriots versus the Steelers. I had the Patriots at a D. I'm still going to keep them there despite the win. That first half looked great. In the second half, they almost let the Pittsburgh Steelers come back. That was a good defensive showing by the New England Patriots, but the consistency of their offense just wasn't there for the entirety of the game. First half, great. Second half, it just wasn't a lot there, but their defense held things in check. So I'm going to keep them at a D. But the Pittsburgh Steelers were at a B. I'm probably going to keep them there, despite this offense just looking atrocious with Mitchell Trubisky in there. And you guys know I was always a big supporter of Trubisky. It's not looking like it. It didn't look good. That offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers does not look good. It just doesn't. Defensively, first half, bad. Second half, they look better. It's just the offense couldn't do enough to get them in that ball game. So, Steelers at a B. Next game, we have the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with the Buccaneers winning that game. With the Buccaneers winning that game, I'm going to move them up to a B because of the way they came out and they really played football, and I'm going to keep the Atlanta Falcons there. It's a 3-way tie in that division. It's crazy, but just for the sake of them being really at the same pace when we come to the season, Atlanta has a quarterback problem, and both defenses have been so-so all year, so I'm going to keep both teams at a B. Next is the Ravens and the Rams. I have the Ravens at an S. I still believe they're one of the best teams in the NFL. The way they were able to pull their game out in overtime against the Rams. And I'm going to keep the Rams at a B. I am going to keep the Rams at a B. They are still a highly competitive football team. Even though there's some things missing with the Rams, they are still a very competitive football team. And the Ravens just, I think, outclassed them in that second half in overtime. So, and I'm going to give credit to Lamar. He's starting to look like an MVP candidate. Well, not starting, but he's looking like he solidified himself as an MVP candidate. And the way that he's been playing this year, something different is about Lamar. Next up, we have the Detroit Lions against my Chicago Bears. I'm going to do this for the first time in a while. I am moving the Bears to a C, and I'm going to have the Detroit Lions. I had them at an A. I'm going to keep them at an A. But the reason I'm moving the Bears up is because that defense, the performance that they gave against the Lions offense, and you can get my full reaction to that ball game, that defense of the Bears, it was tremendous. Tremendous to get out the golf. And the thing about the Lions that kind of irritates me, they've been playing like this the last couple of weeks, ever since the first Bears game in Week 11. It's just they happened to come back and win that game. They actually looked bad against the Packers. They look bad this week. This Lions team is just, they haven't been playing great the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to put the Lions in an A for now. But I'm moving the Bears up because of the way that defense played. And if they keep that offensive game plan, as in using Fields' legs and having him, I think they need to get DJ more involved. But that's a whole nother thing. But the Bears are moving up to a C. Next game we have is the Colts versus the Bengals. I had the Colts at a B. I am dropping them to a C. I had the Bengals at a B. I'm still keeping them at a B. The Colts, they just got drugged by Jake Browning out of all people. Jake Browning had a hell of a day against the Colts defense, which it's not a bad defense, but they couldn't find everything going in that ball game. So I'm going to put the Colts at a C, and I'm going to put the Bengals at a B. Next game, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Cleveland Browns. I had the Jaguars in A. They have some injuries. Christian Kirk is out for a couple of weeks. You have Trevor Lawrence dealing with that ankle injury. I'm going to keep them at an A despite the loss. And the Browns, I had them at a B. I'm going to keep them at a B. I kind of want to move them up to an A. Maybe slightly, but I'll see how the Browns do this coming week. Then I will make my judgment on that. But this Browns team defensively has been a really good defense, even without Denzel Ward in the lineup. Myles Garrett's looking like a DPOY candidate. And offensively for the Jaguars, with the Lawrence injury and the Kirk injury, defensively they just did not look very good against the Browns. So that game, it was a surprising of a blowout. Well, surprising of a big margin. So I'm keeping those teams there, but I want to see how Flacco does this week against I think a much tougher defense than the Bears defense than the Jaguars defense, honestly, in my opinion. Next up, we have the Carolina Panthers against the New Orleans Saints. The Panthers, Saints. Something about this football team with the Saints I just don't trust. Derek Carr's dealing with injuries again. Defensively, they look good, but it was against the Panthers, so I hold that with a grain of salt. And the Panthers are just, at this point, the worst team in football. Point blank, period. Let's move on. Next, we have the Houston Texans versus the New York Jets. I had the Texans at an A last week. I'm dropping them to a B. It sucks that C.J. Stroud dealt with the concussion protocol. And with the New York Jets, I had them at a D. I think I'm going to move them up to a C. Because who would have thought they would have won that game the way that they won it, getting 30 points on the board. So at the end of the day, I am going to keep the Jets at a C. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings and the Las Vegas Raiders. And for this game was one of the ugliest games that you can ever see. But I'm going to keep the Vikings at a C, and I'm going to drop the Raiders to a D. Mainly because they got shut out by a Vikings defense that kind of, it blitzes a lot, but it's like, Both teams have quarterback problems, and we saw that in that game. Both teams has offensive issues. So, and it sucks that Jefferson got hurt again. So, it sucks for both teams, but I'm going to keep the Vikings at a C and drop the Raiders to a D. Next, we have the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers dominated again. And the Seahawks, I'm dropping the Seahawks to a C. 4-game losing streak. Haven't been looking good. They also have some quarterback issues. Geno Smith hasn't been playing necessarily the best. And then on top of that, he was out against the 49ers. So at the end of the day, I am going to keep the Seahawks I'm going to drop the Seahawks to a C, keep the 49ers at S tier because they just looked absolutely dominant again. They just look like themselves. So at the end of the day, this team, 49ers team, is the best team in football in my opinion, and they are looking like they could possibly make it to the Super Bowl at this point the way they're playing with Brock Purdy. So I'm going to keep the 49ers in an S. Next, we're going to have the Buffalo Bills, going against the Kansas City Chiefs. And at the end of the day, this was a very competitive football game. I'm going to keep the Chiefs at an A, back-to-back losses. Team hasn't been looking great all year. Well, not all year, but the offense There's just something missing, and that is explosion, and that is consistency at the wide receiver position. And I'm going to keep the Buffalo Bills, one of the more headache teams in the NFL, at a B. And I just want to say this about that offsides play. Right call. And if the Travis Kelce lateral doesn't happen, we're not having the same discussions about that play. It was the right call, point blank, period. Because at the end of the day, when you're watching it live, you can't really see the football. And he's clearly offsides. So Kadarius Toney's clearly offsides. Patrick Mahomes blowing up on the sideline. I think that's more of the frustrations of the way the year has kind of went. So I'm going to keep the Chiefs at an A, keep the Bills at a B. That was a very good football game, but the lateral was, I think that would not be a discussion the offsides play would not be a discussion if the lateral doesn't happen. Next, we're going to go to the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm going to keep the Broncos at a B, and I am dropping the Chargers to a D. I still don't know why Brandon Staley has a job. He's one of the coaches, along with Ron Rivera, I think should be gone. He just does not have this football team. And this football team is talented. And it sucks that Justin Herbert is out for the rest of the year. And they're probably resting him because this football team is just not living up to expectations. They have some injuries, but at the end of the day, this football team has too much talent to be this bad. So I am going to keep the Broncos at a B and drop the Chargers to a D. Next, we have the Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles. Cowboys S-tier dominating game, and I'm dropping the Eagles to an A because not only did they lose the last two games, they got dominated the last two games. And some of the Eagles' woes or the way that they've been playing kind of inconsistent football is starting to show against better teams. Yeah, they got that game against the Chiefs, but the Chiefs have been playing down as well. The Eagles' secondary has issues, linebacker has issues, and it doesn't help that you completely turn the football over. The Cowboys look dominant. Cowboys' offense looks like explosive. Their defense looks good. And can the Cowboys be reversing fortunes on their typical December drop? Could they? Starting to look like it the last 2 weeks. Next, we are going to go to the Monday Night Football games with the Titans and the Miami Dolphins. I'm dropping the Dolphins. I had them in an S, but I'm dropping them to an A. And I'm going to keep the Tennessee Titans at a C. What a good football game. It's just the Dolphins. You had a 14-point lead late and you blew it. Sucks that you had to deal with the Tyreek Hill injury for a good part of the game. Tua didn't look the same. The Titans really got after Tua Tagovailoa. Titans, Will Levis looked good down the stretch, and it's just the Dolphins just completely blew it. They don't get after the quarterback, which has been a struggle for them, especially with the Jalen Phillips injury. And Will Levis had a lot of time in that pocket to throw, and the Dolphins' offense was just, it looked like they were a bit out of rhythm. So I'm going to drop the Dolphins to an A, keep the Titans a C, and the last one is the Packers against the Giants. I'm moving the Giants up to a C. I'm going to keep the Packers at a B. The Giants played some really tough football. They ran the football well. Saquon Barkley had a very good game outside of that. And I'm not going to say inexcusable. The ground calls a fumble. It was just sucked for that to happen. Jordan Love's inaccuracy issues started to show up again in this ball game. Green Bay made a ton of mistakes. The Giants, Tommy DeVito has been playing solid the last couple of weeks, making some really good throws. So in that ball game, as a Bears fan, of course, I'm happy the Packers lost. Duh. So I'm going to keep the Packers at a B, and I'm moving the Giants up to a C, who have won their last 3 games. So here's my rankings for this week. Make sure you guys leave us a like, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. I am APW Sports signing out. Make sure you guys stay safe, have a great next day, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.